Hey all, Lawrence from Express Unity, and today we're going to be continuing our survival multiplayer game. Now, in the last episode, we focused on basically just spawning our player and just getting something simple onto the screen. So, what I want to do today is start on our island generator script. And basically what that is going to do is the first player that starts a server will instantiate our island components, and then anyone who joins after that will basically load onto that custom island. So in the Discord server, I have actually packed up all these assets that I have here. I haven't made any prefabs out of them, so that it's all kind of a little bit of a mess, so you do need to fix them up just a tad, so we'll go through that now. So basically we have our first like planes here, and they're both different, just slight variants of each other. So basically I have this material underneath them, and that should be the material that they should be using. And then I have the few bits of land. I think I have 3 pieces. Yes, I do. And then those materials are basically just land 1. So we got to drag that material onto the bottom of them. And then we have land 2. And then there is like this little dirt layer that separates the top grass. So just there. And then the grass component, which is the top. Alrighty. So now I also have no, I don't have that just yet. So what we're going to do is in our resources, we're actually going to create new prefabs of these in our resources. But first off, I want to give them a tag. So for our 2 sandy areas, I'm going to give them a tag, and I'm going to call them sand. So both of these are going to be tagged with the sand, and then these 3 land bits will be called, I'll just call them grass. So basically what's going to happen is the land areas are going to only spawn on the sand, and then anything like rocks or trees are going to spawn on the land. And then what we'll have is items spawn around randomly the trees or rocks. Or again, we could just iterate through that again and spawn items as well. Alrighty, so I am just going to drag these into our resource. Actually, before I do, let's actually name them something. So I'm just going to call this base 1. Then I'll call this one base 2. And then they can stay as... actually, I'll just capitalize it. So we'll just capitalize the land, just so it's a little bit more pleasant to look at. Alright. So let's just drag that into our resources and create an original variant of them. Now we can, of course, have as many as we want, but right now that's all I've ended up containing inside of the... just basically that's all I've made. I will end up making more eventually. Oh, also there is some stuff we do need to add here, so I'm actually going to add a mesh collider, and I'm actually going to highlight all of them just to make this easier. So just going to add a mesh collider to all of them, and we'll make them... Actually, do we? No, we don't want that. Because they're static, we don't need them to be convex. So that should be good. So how I want this to look, so we can do a bit of prototyping here, so let's just delete all them. Wait, did I apply it? I don't think I applied that. Oh god, okay. So what I'm going to do is just highlight them here. Oh, you can't do that. Alright, drag them all back in the scene. Alright, so let's add the mesh collider again, and this time apply the changes. Alright. So what I'm going to do now is create a new 3D object, and I'm going to create a plane. And I'm going to call this water. This water plane is always going to be in the scene, and I'm going to scale it fairly large, maybe like so. And then I have the water material that we can just drag and drop it. And this water material is nothing special, it's just a default material with some transparency. So let's go ahead and just test out how we want this to look. So let's grab a base, maybe base 2, and let's center it. And we want to just push it underneath the water a bit so it looks like that. That looks pretty cool. And then let's say this is randomly selected by the generator. It selected this. It's now going to place a couple of the land masses. So these will end up being in the ground like so. And there will be multiple of them scattered around with different rotations. You know, you can start to see how this will turn out. Maybe like that. So you can see just by us placing it, we've already made something that looks fairly decent. So this is the type of look that we want to try and generate with our generator. So by just visualizing this like so, it gives us a bit of an understanding of what we're trying to accomplish, and we're kind of not going into it blind. So I'm now going to delete all of these and start working on our script. So it will be I think we can make it part of the photon manager. So let's just give it a shot. Let's just let it load. Alright. So just gonna have you know what? Let's not make it part of the photon manager because I don't want it to get too cluttered. So let's create a new script inside our network folder, and let's just call it island spawner. And let's drag that script inside our photon manager. I'll let it compile first. Okay, there it is. Alright, so now that it's done that, let's go ahead and start coding. So, there is a few arrays that I want to make. So we're going to go first with a public game object array, and we're going to call this base, or bases. Then we're going to go with a public, another game object array, and we'll call this let's call it base objects, and then this will be land objects, and then we'll make a few more that we're not really going to use at the moment because I haven't made the assets yet, but then these will be our tree objects, our rock objects, our we can go grass objects. And then after that, the final one, we could go building objects. So basically, we kind of want to lay this as I've set it up here. So the first thing we want to spawn in is our base. Next thing we want to try and spawn in is our land, but we only want to spawn our land on top of the base. Then we want to spawn our trees. Again, we only want to spawn the trees on the land. Then the rocks, again, we only want to spawn on the land. Then grass, we want to try and spawn grass around trees, but really that doesn't matter. We can, again, just scatter them on land. Then buildings, they can go anywhere. They can go on the sand, they can go on the grass. So it's just basically this whole layering method of making the spawner go little by little, taking it one step at a time until you get a completed result. So, let's start with that. I don't think, just trying to think here. Alright, just gonna quickly take a look at the photon. Whoop, we want to be using photon, and we want to be using photon dot real time, and then using photon dot ton. And I just want to see if we have, yeah, are we the master client? So this is what we want, I believe. So instead of using isMine, we're going to use isMasterClient, and basically this should only run this code when the master client connects, which should be as soon as the server is instantiated. So in the start, we're just going to say if photon network dot is master client, and then for now I'm just going to debug.log just to see if it actually is picking us up. We are the master. Okay. So I'm just gonna play this to see if we do end up getting that that message. I'm just gonna save the scene, and let's just give it a shot. Next, we have our join random. Okay. Let's see. What can we do? Inherit pun, and let's go. Let's give it a photon view. Photon view. And what is this error that I'm getting? No idea what that error is complaining about. I don't think it was the fact that we didn't have a photon view, but let's just give it a shot and see. Yeah. Because oh, maybe it is. This one is controlled locally, but oh, I know what it is. So this is basically being run at the start, at which case we are not actually in a server just yet. So what I want to do here is on joined room, let's make an event. So let's go create a public event system.action. We're not actually going to give it an action. We'll just leave it blank for now, and we'll just say don't want to copy the name. It's on joined room. Let's just say, just call it has joined room. And then we will call the event in on joined room. We'll say has joined room. And then we'll say dot invoke, like so. Basically calling the event like this will basically not give us an error if this event is being called and it hasn't been set by any script yet. So this is basically a quick way to check errors, and it won't, you know, break Unity. So now that we have that, I'm now going to just create a photon manager up here. I'm going to call it PM, and we're just going to say PM equals game object dot get component, and we want to get the photon manager, not photon view. And then over here we want to say PM dot has joined room plus equals double tap tab for it to automatically create that function for us. And let's chuck that is master client into that. And hopefully we should now get that we are the master of the server. Connected to master. We are now connected to Photon. If we join, there we are. We are the master. Awesome. So this should only be happening to the very first person that joins the game. Now we want to do all our island spawning logic via this. And let's see. For now, let's just randomly spawn our base. So let's go, and we're going to be using the Photon network instantiate. So I'm just going to call it base. Oh, we can't use base. I mean, we can. We can call it base object. And then we want to equal Photon network dot instantiate. Oh my goodness. Instantiate. And let's just go for a base objects, and we'll go random.range. First index is 0, and the last index will be our base objects.length. And then, oops, we want to close that. And then we want to get .name. And we are just going to spawn it at the center, and we're not going to give it... Oh, I mean, we could actually give it some rotation to vary it. But for now, let's just quaternium.identity. But basically, Photon network.instantiate, this is something that should automatically be RPC'd. So, might have to do a bit of tweaking with the offset of that object, but if we play it and join the server, it should spawn in. Oh, my bad. We need to actually drag in our assets here. So let's just quickly populate what we have. So we've got our base 1, we've got our base 2, and then our land. We've got our land 1, land 2, and land 3. All right. So basically, it's going to get the name of our resources, and it should automatically spawn it for us. Nope, guess not. Can only instantiate. Oh yes, that's right. Once again, let's drag them all back out into the scene. Now, you may have heard me say to not use a photon view when spawning objects like bullets, because you will run out of photon views eventually. In our case here, because this is just a few objects for the island, it is okay to do so, because we're not really going to be using up everything, especially when the game is this small. When the game is going to be a little bit small like this, it is absolutely fine doing it like this. So we are just going to add a photon view. We don't need to add a transform sync or anything like that, because the transform is automatically synced to all players when they first spawn. So let's just apply that, delete it, and now it should allow us to spawn the object when we create the room. So there it is. Now we are inside of it because of how it's spawned, but that is pretty good. We do need to edit our controller, because our controller is going to be no good in this kind of environment. But now what we want to do is create an offset for the base objects. So I'm just going to say vector 3 base offset equals vector 3.0, and then I'm going to say base offset dot wine dot y equals let's go with -2, I believe. And then let's just set base offset as the position that we want to instantiate that that object as. So that should work. It should be slightly under the water, and it should give us a pretty nice look. So there it is. Might be a bit too far under the water. Yeah, Yeah, it's a bit too far under. So we can change this. Let's just go with maybe a 0.6. Go with 0.6. We'll see how it looks. This stage of it all is going to be basically just testing it a lot. Because at the end of the day, you want something that generates something that looks nice. And this scale is probably too small as well. So, what we are going to do is the easiest thing for us to do, really. I mean, we could go base object. No, that's not something we can do because the actual scaling of it won't be synchronized. So what we're gonna do, go to our bases, and let's just put them all both together, and just move them down a bit, just so we can get a bit of a perspective on how it's gonna look, and we're just gonna scale them. That might be a decent size. Maybe a tad bigger. And then let's just apply that. Okay. Now let's give it a try and see how it looks. We are going to spawn inside of it because we still haven't set any positions. Okay. I mean, we could make it a bit bigger. It might still be a tad too small, but for now, I do like how it is looking. Okay. So, what we are going to do now is spawn our land objects. Now, just trying to think how we can do this. So let's create a public int, and we'll call it land object count. We'll set that to 4 by default. Alright, so now after the base is spawned, we want to go for int I equals 0, and I is less than our land object count. Then we just want to increment that. So if we have a count of 4, this will spawn 4 times. So now what we want is basically the same line of code, but for our land object and for our land objects, and we're just basically switching all these around. Okay, now what we need to do is basically randomize our position. So what we're going to do is create a vector 3, and we're going to call it land offset, and we'll give it a new vector 3 0 0 0. And here's what we can do. We are going to say random.range. I'm not exactly sure how big the land area is. I think it was around maybe 40. So we could say something like, I think this is how we could do it. Say something like 35, because we don't want it to spawn off the landmass to 35. We do want it to be slightly above, so we could say 2 for the Y. And for the Z, same thing. So now we can just paste in our land offset. And this should hopefully spawn. There's right now no checks to see whether it's on the base or not, but that's alright. So if we play it, and join. Let's go into the scene. Okay. So, our land isn't very big, so that's our first problem. Next problem is it's not really where we want it to be because it does spawn under. What we do want is to kind of check beforehand basically the height of the terrain. So we do want the object to be inside of it, but we don't want it to be under it. So something like that. We could again also change the scale of these. And let's just test it out again. So photon manager, and for our land object count, let's just do something like 20. Let's just see how that looks real quick. So yeah, as you can see, a lot of the stuff is inside of the ground. So if we move this down, there you go. You can see how it's looking. Seen back there. So, we kind of want to check whether we are hitting a certain point of the terrain. And so how we can do that, let's just check, again, this is one of those things where you can do it so many different ways. I just want to check. Let's go physics.raycast. And let's just see what we can do. We can say the origin and the direction. Okay, so let's give this a shot. Let's say if physics.raycast. And the first thing is going to be our origin. And so that's going to be our land offset. The next is going to be our direction. And so that's going to be vector3.down. And so our land offset, what we're actually going to do is make our value very high. So let's go for like a 40. So that it's up in the sky and it's going to be shooting down. Next thing we want to do is have our raycast hit. We'll call that hit. And so this will just be out hit. And the next we're going to basically have our length. So we should be able to just get by with it being 100. That's how much units the raycast will shoot. Okay. So now what we can do is copy this whole area here, paste it in there, and we should be able to get by with the land offset being hit dot point. The reason that should be okay is because all of the origin positions for the model is in the center of the model. So there shouldn't be much work that we need to do to fix the positions. So I'm just gonna quickly test this out and see if my logic is correct here. Okay. So, it is correct, in a way. So what it's doing at the moment is it's also raycasting on landmass itself. And that's not really what we want to do. We want it to only hit the sand and spawn in the sand. We don't want it to start layering like it's doing here. Over here, it's inside the ground because it obviously hit that point. And then you can see the origin for this piece isn't really quite there. It's kind of in the corner. In fact, I might have messed up a lot of the origin points. Oh, yeah. Okay, I kind of... I mean, that's not really a big deal. So we'll just leave it. I will end up probably making some other models, though. Because what I ideally wanted is for the origin point to be in the center, so that it spawns kind of in the ground like so. But okay. So now that we've got that, I'm going to just drag those out, and I'm going to scale them so they're slightly larger. And let's just go ahead and delete them now, and let's make the object count something like 6. And let's take a look. Alright, so you can start to see how this is taking shape. We desperately need to ignore it hitting other objects like this. What we can do for now is create a new vector 3. I'm just going to call it temp, and that's going to equal the hit dot point. And then we're going to say hit dot point takeaway equal I'm not sure. Let's go with 3. See what happens. And then instead of hit dot point, we just pass in our temp. Oh, does that? Oh wait, we want to do point dot y. Does that not work? Oh, that's a bit of a shame. Oh, sorry. We want to do temp dot y, and that should work. Alright, we just want to try and get our land as far into the base sand as we can. We don't really want to have that many lips around it so that it starts getting hard for the player to jump on. But there you can see, it's starting to look a bit better. Now we could mess around with the rotation of them. So let's go ahead and say new quaternium. Actually, we could do quaternium dot ULA, and let's just give it a random rotation. So for now, let's do 0, 0, and I believe we just want to do the Z for a random dot range, and we'll go from 0 to 180. That might be enough. And let's just see how that goes. Let's see what happens. What have I done? Okay, we need an extra one of our brackets, and that should be good. Alright. Wrong rotation, but we're almost there. So basically just going to copy and paste this line. Could be in the Y. As you can tell, my axis in basically anything is terrible. I never remember what's what. That could be it. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Okay. That's awesome. So one last quick test. Let's see how far we can ramp it. Let's go put in 50 objects. Oh yeah, that's a lot. Okay. So we're never really going to be using that many land objects. Basically, they're just a filler to add a bit of green into the island. But you can see rotation is working. We're getting some nice variants. Another thing is, I don't know if really been paying attention to it, but our bases are actually swapping out as well. We'll see if we get a different base this time. Nope, that's the same base. We'll just rotate it until we get a different base. Same base again. Come on, give us a different one. Alright, it's not cooperating. But it was swapping because I saw a different base before. So, what we want to do now is, for the player when he spawns, just for now, I'm just going to make his height 30, just so he spawns above the island. Eventually what we're going to do is once the island is completely finished, then we're actually going to handle the spawning of the players. So there you go. As you can see, looking pretty good. Oh, there we go. Different base this time. Alrighty. So the ultimate test now is to see if what we have done is actually being synchronized and works correctly. We don't want the second player to spawn any terrain components at all. So we'll just let that build and see how we've done. All right. Give it a quick login. All right, so we'll join random. Give it a quick look around. Falling, but let's see if it is the same. And it is. Look around, there's our player. Our island is exactly the same on both players. We could also connect in with Unity. And I didn't need to log in because I just ignored that scene, but you can see that we're all three of us are on this little ridge here. And it's looking pretty good. Our island is synchronized across all players. And that's, I mean, basically it. I'm going to end the video here, but you guys could just continue on with this and just adding more objects to spawn and layer, giving it a bit of logic to see if it's land that it's hitting. We will be doing that in our next episode. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you guys liked it, give it a like and subscribe. Comment down below what you think. And yeah, if you guys need any help or anything of the sort, just join our Discord. Me and a few others would be more than happy to help. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.